Welcome to the My Jewish Listings podcast, the podcast about everything Jewish and kosher, inviting support from within the Jewish community. Visit myjewishlistings.com to find a Jewish-owned business near you. And now, your host, Doron Ellie. All right, everyone. Today we have Aaron joining us with Sapphire Wealth Advisory Group. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Fantastic. We just wanted to get started and ask you a little bit about your company, what you do, and how you got started. I mean, how'd you get started in the financial industry, and why'd you want to get started at helping people achieve their financial goals?
Sure. So I guess I took a little bit of a circuitous route towards accomplishing this because originally I wanted to be a doctor and then decided medical school may not have been for me, but I always wanted to help people and always had a good knack for numbers and explored the investment world and over time really learned how I could best help people in guiding them with their finances, in helping them make good decisions that over time they could build their wealth and figure out the best course of action to help them not just build their wealth, but distribute their wealth when they retire or when they want to accomplish certain life cycle events like buying a house or paying for their kids to go to college.
Oh wow!
So it's a pretty meaningful journey and pretty meaningful career.
Wow, it's a huge change going from doctor to financial services.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
So you specifically, you said you help people get houses and invest for retirement.
yes. It's obviously a process.
Mm-hmm.
That's what planning is, and that's what I always share with clients. It's an ongoing process. It's not a straight line, because if it was a straight line and it was easy, then everybody would be doing it, and now would be out of business.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, there's so many technological platforms and such. I mean, some of which I use in my own business, but to
Mhm.
the degree that there are a lot of decisions, a lot of complexities that clients enter or get into at certain points in their life
Mhm.
when they graduate college, get their first job, get married, have kids, buy a house. There are a lot of decisions that need to be made, and really being that soundboard, being their cheerleader, being their advocate, and really helping clients navigate the proverbial journey towards financial success in whatever degree that looks like in their eyes, in their mind, and really creating a blueprint that could utilize all the various techniques that we put together to help them accomplish those goals.
Wow. So, because I mean, I know there's again, like you said, there's just so many services out there that people can invest here, invest there. There's this app, that app. I mean, there's so many different platforms, and you guys just simplify everything. Oh.
Yes, I mean one of the key values that I bring to the table, and clients have even shared that one of the reasons why they like working with me is simply because as much as they know, what I do is can be very complex, but I keep it very rudimentary. When I talk about different types of accounts that we need to open, different types of insurance policies that are required given their financial planning needs, just using very simplistic terminology and helping clients understand using sketches that in normal times I would sit across the table and draw pictures, so that clients really understand, because it's not just about me doing the work and helping them succeed financially, but it's
Mhm.
also about helping them understand, feel empowered to make decisions, feel enlightened, and
Mhm.
having a sense of confidence that we're doing this together and helping and obviously doing it hand in hand, that you know while they succeed, I succeed, and if I succeed, they succeed. So
Mhm.
it's mutually beneficial.
Absolutely. And do you help people like of all income levels, or is it, I feel like there's like this like stigma, like people think that only if you really have money that you can start investing. But do you basically serve like anyone that is trying to just get started?
So it's a great question. It's obviously a valid question, and it's a question that I get from time to time. I mean, truthfully, um, I started my practice a number of years back. I've been in the financial planning or the wealth management world, as it were, for about 15 years.
Hmm.
One of the things that I've always made a point in doing, just how I started my practice was essentially working with the younger professional market, where truthfully, perhaps professionals may not have considered these folks to be the ideal client because
Mm-hmm.
they were earlier on in their career. However, for myself, to the point, to your point about people of different wealth classes, um, I will say that through the work, through the planning efforts
Mm-hmm.
that we've done together, now, fast forward 10 years working together with them, they're at a point where they would be the ideal client. But I also know that had I not worked with them 10 years ago, they may
Mm-hmm.
not have been in the same position today. So my point is, I'm always happy to give advice to anybody. I'm a true believer that everybody, does deserve a half hour, 45 minutes of time just to give some perspective on what they might be doing. It may not be an ideal situation for myself at that point,
Mm-hmm.
but if it makes sense, we could always engage together and see where the relationship goes. Because I believe it really,
Like try to help
at
everyone in this situation. Like whatever situation you're trying to do what you can to help them out,
right.
which I think that's amazing. And
Yeah,
so
no, I appreciate it.
on that note, I mean, like, what's your best tip for someone who's literally just getting started and trying to build their financial portfolio? Like, even if they're like in their like 20s and 30s and may not be the ideal candidate at this time, but like can start somewhere.
Right. So it's a great question. I mean, truthfully, that there's well, when I started my practice, there was something I created called the starter kit,
Mm-hmm.
right? Put that in quotes, where somebody who's a newly minted college graduate or law school student, medical student, there are key elements that I always suggest clients have, namely set aside money to invest, where it's invested, having a retirement account, having
Mm-hmm.
just a traditional investment account. So having those two types of accounts really will set you apart from a lot of peers that may not even start doing that
Mm-hmm.
until at some point in the future. And also looking at the necessary protective measures, what I call the risk management vehicles, namely certain types of insurance policies, whether it be income protection insurance, or namely disability insurance, or if you're married and have kids, life insurance. So at least you're able to set aside a little bit of money now, and then do so on a periodic basis so that it compounds in the future. And just make sure that you have the right type of insurance in force as well, so that you can't so that you have the right types of vehicles to protect yourself. So in case God forbid something happens, you're protected in a different regard. But
Wait, so you're
you
saying
know
that you can actually like protect some of like the risk management, like when you're investing some of these like portfolios, like I mean, like usually you have this idea of that there's so much risk in investing sometimes to try growing your wealth. I mean,
Yes, yeah. So absolutely. So, and it's a great question and a great point. I mean, there's obviously a lot of risk in everything that we do.
mhm.
But when it comes to an investment risk, there is a whole series of topics that are in that arena. Which for the interest of the podcast, I don't want to put people to sleep, so I'm not going to go right into the whole
Okay.
nitty gritty of what that looks like. But overall, in a very high level, when working with clients, and truthfully, whether it be someone who in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and I do work with clients that are on the other side of the spectrum, where they're gearing up for retirement, which is obviously a different conversation. But there's always risk in what we do.
Mhm.
Now, for somebody who's starting out in their career, a young professional, or an emerging affluent individual, so to speak,
Mhm.
um, we want to make sure that not just their investments are adhering to a certain level of risk, which is their appetite, their emotional connection towards their money, but also if, let's say, they get hurt, sick, or something worse happens, the monies that they've set aside isn't jeopardized, so that because they've had let's say, an insurance policy to allow them some continuity in a proverbial paycheck, to allow them to pay their rent, pay their mortgage, pay their bills, so that they don't have to sell or liquidate their entire portfolio that they've worked hard in growing, just to get by with whatever they
Managing
have.
the payments just to for
Exactly.
further investments, right?
Exactly. So at least having some sort of protective measures, when that's why I mentioned risk management. I so as I said, I try to use simple terms when I say insurance, or any sort of thing like that. People tend to get a little weary when they think, "Oh, death and dying or getting sick." I'm like, I'm not saying that everyone
It's
has
like
to,
protection in the case of something. Like it's just
exactly,
making sure that you're taken
exactly.
care of in any case. I like that. That's pretty awesome.
And so we focus on both sides of the equation, right? I
Hmm.
want it to be a balanced equation. So we focus on the monies, right, being used in a productive fashion, namely for investing, for retirement planning, for other means the money might be used for. But we also want to make sure that the other side of the equation addresses all the risk that could be associated with getting hurt, getting sick, or something happening, so that the money is not depleted
And you're
very
protected in
quickly.
all cases in that sense. So like, yeah,
Exactly.
that's I like that. I like that. I mean, and it's a great way to go about it. Absolutely. There's one question I love asking people. I mean, what's one common myth about investing that you kind of just want to set straight for everyone?
You just need to start. I mean, that's what it comes down to. There's no the myth. There's a myth. There are a lot of myths, right, about investing, right? Timing is a big one, especially nowadays with the markets being as high as they have been for the last number of years. Clients have asked me, or even prospective clients have asked me, is now the great time? Now is now a good time to start investing? Um, the
It's
question is
all
always asked.
it's always a great time then.
Right. And so that's why I said you just need to start somewhere,
Mhm.
because there have been statistics. In fact, the other day on television, well, on one of the news stations, there was an interview, and they were discussing, when is the right time to invest. And truthfully, the best time to invest is now, because over a 10, 20, 30-year period, depending on the material circumstances of the money, obviously it's, what I'm sharing is very broad, but you, as the old adage, you have to be in it to win it, so to
Mhm.
speak.
And if you just keep
So,
going at it little by little, right? It grows
and
over time,
exactly.
and you have the highs, the lows all together, and it kind of just averages out to a great return, right?
And that's where, when it comes to a lot of the young folks that discuss retirement, or that I talk about retirement, or people that have been working for 10, 15 years and unfortunately never got around to saving for retirement, so to speak. um, it makes it a little bit more challenging, because you can turn back the clock, but there's the concept of compounding. So when you have a little bit of money that you squirrel away every week, every month, it makes a material difference over a 5, 10, 15, 20, 30-year period than somebody who's starting out so many years later.
Yeah, no, definitely. I totally agree. I mean, it really seems like you know like what you're talking about and you know how to help people. But I'm actually based in LA, and I know that you're based in New York. I mean, can I get your help on like investing over there? I know like sometimes people aren't like able to help across the country, but is that something you can help me out with? Do you serve all areas?
Yes, yes. Especially with technology these days, video conferencing has been a tremendous resource. So, I have clients in a variety of states throughout the country, and it's also, you know, the time zones could be held in my favor or the client's favor, depending on
Yeah.
which coast I'm talking to.
Yeah.
But the direct answer is yes.
All right.
I work with clients from all over the country.
All right. Beautiful. And so, how can people connect with you? How can our listeners reach out to you?
Uh, so they could uh, go to my site, Sapphire Wealth Builders, .com. So, and there are two P's in Sapphire, just to be clear.
Yeah, I
But
sometimes get that messed up too.
Yeah. But or they could find me on LinkedIn. They could go to my LinkedIn page.
All right, beautiful. Is
Um,
there a phone number also?
there's a phone number to my office. Obviously, my email is listed. So there are a variety of ways that people could contact me through social media or through my site.
All right, beautiful.
Um, and I'm always happy to connect with people, and I always find it fascinating to hear about people's stories and where they came from and where they're going, and obviously try to help them get there.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Aaron, to chat about how you're helping people at Sapphire Wealth Advisory Group. If anyone wants to reach out to Aaron, you can find him at his My Jewish Listings page. Head to sapphirewealthbuilders.com, or you can call 646-432-7875. Once again, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.